Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of TGM podcast series, The Inside Hour. Today we are very happy to have two travel experts from MakeYourAsia, Mr. Łukasz Jankowski, travel manager from MakeYourAsia, Mr. Adrian, tourism director from MakeYourAsia. Welcome.
Hi.
So, continuing with the travel topic that we discussed last time, this time we will go deeper into Asian destinations and cultures and some of your interesting experience while working at MakeYourAsia. So for Adrian, how did you become interested in travel and end up working in a travel agency in Asia?
Actually, it was destiny from one part because I used to work for Vietnamese television, also by luck, because I came here after studying Vietnamese. It was my major, Vietnamese and Thai.
So you can speak Vietnamese?
Yeah, I can, yeah. And I came to Vietnam just to, find something to do. I was thinking that I would, be teaching English, just as everyone does, basically all the Westerners who come here and are not on the contract, right? So I came here first, then I started teaching English, but soon after, because I could speak Vietnamese quite fluently, then the guys at VTC 10 channel invited me to work with them. So I worked for VTC 10 for 1 year, and I also, did many shows for many different TV channels like An TV and so on, and in the end even VTV1 and VTV3. So I used to travel a lot with those guys because I was making TV shows and hosting TV shows about street food and about tourism actually. So after like 5 years of working as TV show host and so on, I just decided that it's time to do something of my own, and I met a friend, Łukasz, but not this Łukasz yet at this point, the other Łukasz, and we decided to open our own company, the tourism company. He had, contacts with Polish people, so we could get our first customers, and I had the knowledge of Vietnam, and that's how it started.
That's interesting. Also, how about you, Łukasz? Because I didn't have a chance to ask you last time.
I'd say similar destiny perhaps. All started with my excellent geography teacher at the primary school. Mm-hmm. I was like, perhaps I was in love with her. At the age of 12, first love. Mm-hmm. but yeah, she was a great teacher. That's how I loved geography, travel topics, and so on. Then I went on to study geography at the university. So this continued with first jobs. I picked tourism as my specialization for the master degree at the Faculty of Geography. So, once graduated, I did travel jobs basically in lots of the fields of tourism, starting from the brief internship at the travel agency, then working at the hotels front desk, events at the larger hotel chain, car rental company operations, and then at the IT company providing software solutions for tourism. And so it all was around travel industry. And then my wife decided to move to Vietnam, and so I ended up here and started to look for travel jobs in here.
So throughout your working experiences in tourism industry, can you briefly share your most favorite travel experience or destinations in Asia?
So for me, I've mentioned, I've studied geography, so lots about nature, and for me nature is always the most fascinating. So my favorite ones are the Borneo Island and Laotian Central Laos, because these are amazing places in terms of nature, landscape, and not too busy. Not busy at all. Basically, there's just like small towns or villages, and you just like set out and explore. That's my favorite. Personally, my favorite experiences.
How about you, Andy?
Yeah, I also like nature, but the thing that I prefer the most is meeting people. So basically, I like to go to those, ethnic villages, ethnic minority villages, see what they believe in, right? See their cultures, talk to them, maybe try to learn, like some sentences in ethnic languages, and just explore the culture and traditions and history of the people there. Like I also like Borneo, just like Łukasz said, but. Of course, the nature for me is very beautiful there, but I really was the happiest when I could talk to the local guide who actually is a guy from an ethnic minority there in Sabah, and he taught me all the legends about Mount Kinabalu, like the place where all the spirits of the people who passed away, they go there and protect their families from the top of the mountain, and so on and so on. That's the most interesting for me because I was studying literature, he was studying geography, so we can even like the same places but different aspects of the same places, and that's also what helps us design very interesting tours because we have different perspectives, and you can see many different things during one tour. So for me it's even people say that don't go to touristic places as Sapa, for example, in Vietnam. Of course Sapa in Vietnam is very touristic place, but just the town, the small villages around it, if you know which villages to go, then they are not as boring and just shopping styled and so on. You can really meet nice people, talk to them, connect to them, and see how they live, and that's what I like the most.
Oh, so it's very similar to me because like I went to Penang in April. That was my first time. Some of my friends say like, "What are you gonna do in Penang?" And I have to say like, because I heard it's an old town, like Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like about Penang is not really about the landscape itself, but it's the culture of like you see a diversity of different people from like Chinese people, the Malaysians, and then different religions. So it's good to try different food because very dynamic food there and very local tasting. And also I enjoy the experience like we hang out around and try like bar hopping, like different bars for many nights, which is very interesting. So what were some of the biggest cultural challenges that you faced when you first moved to Asia, and how did you overcome them?
Want to start?
I don't have a particular one in mind, so maybe you start.
Okay, so for me, for sure, one of the biggest difficulties at first, it was, no personal space in Asia, right? Especially if you start like I did from Hanoi and you sit, outside on the streets, eating, drinking, and so on. People, sit very closely to each other, even, touching their back on back or something. And that was very shocking to me, lining up and people, just standing very near each other. Yeah, that was very unusual for me. But the most important thing, like Polish people are always, most of Polish people are kind of not really stressed, but very serious, kind of. So they're serious and they, like, if there are some rules, they like, most of the time to stick by the rules and so on and so on. So, karaoke singing at 11 p.m. everywhere in the residential area and no one caring was very shocking at first. And getting adjusted to this kind of life where you can do mostly anything you want, and other people just allow you to do that because one day they will also have a party, so then they expect you not to interfere in their party, right? This kind of a different level of personal freedom while doing stuff, you know. That was the most shocking for me, I think. And, you know, like people just relaxing, having fun and not caring about stuff. That was also hard to understand at first because, you know, like I come from Poland. I used to work in Poland. I used to, you know, do stuff in Poland also. And we were always concentrated on work. You go to work or you go to study, then you go to work, then you go home, and then you can just cook and the day ends. There is no like, you know, culture of going out almost every day, every night, just even for food, you know. Basically, there are no like, there's almost no street food, just some food trucks sometimes maybe, some booths, but they serve different kind of food. You just take it, walk and eat, right? So it's super fast food. It's not like you can just go out almost every day, buy yourself some nice food, like home style made, right? And just enjoy with friends, talk and so on and so on. No, you want home style food, you cook at home. You want restaurant, you go to restaurant. There's nothing in the middle. Yeah. So this kind of, you know, like living outside, the culture of living outside, that was like a big shock. I didn't know you can live like that. But now I also live like that, so you know.
Yeah, thinking of what Adrian said, yeah, I think for me I was similar. The biggest shock was like finding the balance between the intensity of the large city's life and people having their own like small things to do and just, you know, finding their own personal space in this what looks at the first glance as a complete chaos. Yeah, if you come from Western culture and you're like dropped in a not in the central districts of Saigon or Hanoi, but in the more remote ones suddenly, because I used to live almost in Nyabe, which is very far in the south of Saigon. So I was traveling through those busy streets, and yet you still see like people's totally chilling on the sidewalk, not minding anything or anyone around them, and just, you know, being focused on their time and their thing. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, but basically, yeah, in Asia, in the cities or outside in the nature, you can just put a table or just a cloth or anything anywhere, put out some food, some drinks, and you can enjoy life really anywhere. In the forest, in the city, on the sidewalk, on the rooftop, anywhere, basically.
So how has living and working in Asia influenced your perspective on travel and culture?
Well, for me, just like, you know, made me even more open-minded about like getting to know other cultures, people's habits, routines, traditions. Because like you have to accept that there's like billions of people in the world and everyone has their own religion, culture, traditions, and yeah, you just have to, or you should observe and accept, and you don't have to admire, because like not everyone's gonna like what other people are doing or what you see, but just be mindful about the diversity of the world and cultures every day, basically. Especially if you travel from one place to another, you see it more and more. So that certainly was the biggest change, or like of my perception living here, and just opening even more to the cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, you know, basically in Poland, most of the people are similar, you know. They have similar beliefs, or not the same, but at least similar, more or less. One culture and one style of living, mostly, right? For the most part. And here, you know, there are so many differences, so many different kinds of people, so many different even ethnicities in one country, right? Beliefs and so on, that, as Łukasz said, the diversity is something very new to people from like Central Europe, let's say, this level of diversity. And yeah, it broadens your horizons, I think, a lot. And also, living here, you learn a lot about the cultures and so on, and how the people explain everything that's going on around them, right? With legends, with some kind of spirits or something, right? So it makes you understand more about the world and offers you a new possibilities to also explain stuff that happens in order to reduce your own level of stress and push it away. Some like, okay, so it's not like I didn't try hard enough, but maybe I was unlucky, maybe it was not a good day, maybe the spirits were not, helping or something. So it kind of helps you, just chill out a little bit and release the kind of high level of stress that the Western society always puts on the people living in
I think it's
Western
also
countries.
one of the unique selling point at MakeYourAsia, because you guys are Polish, but living here in Asia for a long time and already understand about the culture and the people here, and also you have the level of understanding of the Western people, so that you can tailor and customize different interesting trips for the Westerners coming to Asia.
Yeah, and that's
So
also
a very good mix.
sure, and that's a very important thing you just said, because some people think that it's better to travel to Asian countries only with local guides. And of course, local guides are necessary. They have a very deep understanding of their own culture and so on and so on. And they know history well and so on. And that's great.
Yeah.
That's what they should share. That's their part of the thing that they are doing in tourism. And that's why we always also have local guides on our tours. But traveling with a tour leader also from our country, from our company,
Yeah.
we know the difference how people think in Europe and how people think here. And we also know what's interesting for people coming from Western countries, that the local guides just think that it's super normal, and they will not even try to explain it to you because they think it's so usual, it's so basic that everyone knows it.
Yeah.
And maybe not even everyone knows it, but it's not interesting at all because it's just a basic thing, everyday thing we do, right? Imagine just walking through Mekong Delta or somewhere, that you have the coconut palms. Most of the local guides will not show you the coconut flowers because they think it's just a normal thing. They have seen it every day since they were small kids. But people coming from Western countries who have never thought that a coconut palm has flowers, right? Flowers? Yeah, it's a fruit. How? It's supposed to be a nut, but it's not really a nut, right? So, just simple things like these, that's what makes the whole really immersive experience, as they like to use it in marketing department from our company also. But anyway, that's what makes the difference. So local perspective, very important, but the thing that we can offer is the different perspective than just the local one, right? So it's even more deep, a lot deeper. And after tour with one of our tour leaders, you will have a deeper understanding, and you can, kind of have some kind of point of relate it to your own culture and your own experiences. So it's much more accessible for everyone.
So in your experience, what are the key differences between how Westerners and Asians approach travel and tourism?
Well, the key differences for me is the focus on what you do. The majority of Westerners will be interested in that they are in most cases they are familiar with the highlights. Yeah, so they want to go and see places, take a picture, be there, memorize it somehow, and explore the place in many cases. The Asian tourist, yes, it's important to be in places. It's very, very important to take pictures in those places, but there's much more around travel, the cuisine and food. It's inseparable from. You cannot separate it from your tour if you're on an Asian tour group, right? You have to have lunch at certain You perhaps need to have your own food if you come from certain countries, because people are so used to like their own foods, especially like Eastern Asian tourists. They very often like to eat, to try the cuisine they are familiar with. So the local they will look for certain restaurants. While Western tourists, you will often see people who go the whole day long without, or they will simply refuse to have meals because they want to see as much as possible, and they will be nearly running from one place to another to see as much as possible because they have this short window of holiday. They can go and explore, so they will sacrifice like let's say the pleasures of foods like just for sightseeing. Obviously not everyone, but you will see a lot of people like with this approach. And also like shopping. This is like huge thing for Asia, right? Everyone loves shopping. Like doesn't have to be fancy bags or clothes. It can be the smallest insignificant souvenir, but you have to have time to buy something, right? And like for Westerners, often you will just skip it completely because there's no need to bring and increase your home collections of more and more stuff.
Yeah, actually, about this shopping part, I was quite shocked when I first arrived in Vietnam and I started flying around a lot. And I even saw, people going between cities for a short tour, but then they were bringing, whole boxes of not souvenirs, but the local food,
food and fruit,
which you can actually buy in their city. So, for example, they go to Mekong Delta for like 3-day trip, then they bring like 5 kinds of fruits, which you can buy in Hanoi also, no problem. But they bring it from there to Hanoi. They give it to their friends and family and so on. And it's a thing that they brought it from somewhere far away.
and
personally.
authentic city, okay.
Yeah, but like still, it's weird for us, And also the thing that Łukasz said about shopping, I was really shocked to see how for example, in Malaysia, in some places, high-end hotels are built not near the beach, not near the seaside, but they build high-end hotels near shopping centers because they mostly receive Asian guests.
Yeah.
And the most important part for them is not going to the beach or going to the historical part of the town, but the most important part is the largest shopping center is right next to the whole hotel, and then you even have the bridge for pedestrians, so they can actually go from the hotel to the shopping center and easily cross the road. And that was the unique selling point of this hotel. So, it's a whole different approach. Also, one more thing that is quite surprising for Western people is that some Asian tourists, they only eat at their own restaurants. So basically, when Chinese travel somewhere, they only eat Chinese food at Chinese restaurants. When Filipinos go somewhere, sometimes they just look for a Filipino restaurant. And Vietnamese people also, they have pho in this city, let's try our pho. And they, compare if this pho in Malaysia or in Singapore or in Hong Kong or somewhere, is it similar to their own pho, the authentic one in Vietnam? So that's kind of weird. Yeah,
I see it in me too.
Just to maybe add one more thing on the food, like I always explain it to our guests, like imagine like if we in Europe tell someone, oh, we're going to travel somewhere, and we may hear suggestions, oh, so we should go visit, I don't know, this site, this place, this is great landscape, this is super important historical place. And in Asia, you will often hear as recommendations, oh, so if you travel, I don't know, to Hanoi, you have to try this food, and this food. This is like first thing that comes into mind. Like if you travel somewhere, or that it means you have to try this specific food from that location, from this place. And after after this, you may go and look around
Yeah, I
for
also
nice
see
places.
that differences from Western people and then Asian people from our result of the survey, the global travel survey. Like the Asian people tends to prefer the gastronomy and shopping activities, whereas it's different from the Westerners.
And even in the context of Vietnam itself, you can really see the difference in the style of traveling between Westerners and Asian people, because you can just see who goes to Dalat. Mostly 95% of the guests will be the domestic guests, young people who just go there to take some photos for Instagram, to chill in one of the cafes with the view, and to go for like acoustic concert there, and have some romantic time together.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like for Western people, if you go to Dalat, there's not much to do. You can see some beautiful landscapes, but other than that, not really. That's why not so many Westerners include Dalat in their itinerary here, but almost everyone in Vietnam went to Dalat, and people from the south, where you can really easily travel to Dalat by overnight sleeper bus, they can go there every month even, right?
You know why? Because it's very hot in Saigon. So
Sure.
that's why we want to escape from the hot weather somehow in Dalat.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to food, what are some of the most memorable and delicious dishes that you've tried during your time in Asia?
There's one every week for me, literally. So the food's always delicious in Asia, and you have so many options and choices that I am unable
what
to.
What comes to your mind first when talking about food in Asia?
Just the variety, flavors, and sidewalks. That's where some of the greatest foods being sold, prepared, eaten. That's the first thing. If I'm to name one dish, I would say buncha. That's perhaps my first guess.
How about you, Adrian?
For me, the most important culinary, experience and difference is just because like every single place in Asia, every destination has its own specialty dish of this one place, right? Because I was hosting a TV show about specialty dishes of Vietnamese locations here, so like I've tried so many dishes and almost all of them were very good, almost all. I just like had some kind of problems after eating mam kaling in Mekong Delta. That's not really a perfect dish for Western people. But anyway, the whole thing, the most important thing that I can see is like in Western countries, if you want to find good food, you look for reviews on Google or somewhere. But in Asia, anywhere you go, if you want to find good food, you just look where many locals are sitting and eating. And that's the most important thing. So if you just want to try something good, you look for a place where many local people are eating and it's crowded, and that's the best place to eat, basically. So if you're asking about dish, still the easiest one is my favorite, maybe pho cuốn. Yeah, that's like I ate shooting a TV show about pho cuốn. I ate 80 of them in one day.
Wow.
Then I couldn't eat them for 1 week. But after that, every time I go to Hanoi and I have time, I will eat some pho cuốn. So that's my favorite. And of course, one more dish in the south, it's the cơm tấm bất hủ. But though, yeah, really, that's like you can eat it for breakfast, you can eat it for lunch, you can eat it in the night, coming back from the party. It's like McDonald's for us. And kebab in Western countries. You can just enjoy it anytime.
So are there any unique dining experiences or food-related traditions that you recommend to travelers? Just sharing a meal, like the Asian style. I had so many
like Westerners friends who come to Vietnam, for example, or to different countries, and then like we invite them for a meal. And they try to order something for themselves only, then put, for example, like the whole bowl of canh. So it's like meant for sharing while eating rice, right? But they order the canh, the whole bowl, and they eat it by themselves, or like order one portion of something, not for sharing, but for themselves. Okay, that's good, no problem. That's the usual way to do it in Western countries. But the most fun experience ever in Asia is just to go anywhere, sit with all the local friends at one table, have the common food, and just share it and talk to each other. And actually, the food is just the pretext for the whole conversation and the whole celebration of the meal. So that's the most important part. Not really what you eat, but how you eat. So for me, that's the most important part.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, when we speak of unique experiences, you can name a lot. Like there was this super famous place in Japan. I'm not sure if it's still open, where you can eat out of toilet bowl. Yeah, like it was. Taiwan. Yeah. So you see, you did it yourself. so these are, you can call these experiences unique. But and you can find many, like you can barbecue on a roof tiles, and as the barbecue you can use roof tiles, hot stones, and so on. You can drink beer out of rice bowls, and in some places, and it's all fun and fun and laugh. But yeah, for me, the unique part is basically the variety of foods you see on everywhere. Basically, that's for me the most unique thing, that you can stop on pretty much any sidewalk in any large Asian city, and you will have an options there for amazing food adventures.
Yeah, and one more thing that is very different from Western countries, is like if you just go to countryside. In Asia, even in the villages, you have some places to eat out. Just a local place serving some kind of soup or rice or anything. But even in a remote village in the mountains, you will have at least one or two places where they serve some food and coffee and some beer place. If you go to countryside in Western countries, not sure if there will be something more than just one shop or two shops, or just like
grocery store
grocery store, and that's all. But here like the life outside is so important that even in remote countryside you still have the places to go somewhere.
And it's easier to like going around in Asia.
Sure. Now you can drive your motorbike pretty much like whole year, right? Not like in Poland. You try to ride your motorbike in the winter with this thick cover of snow or like ice. Not a good idea.
Yeah. So now talking about the off the beaten hidden bath germs. Can you share some of the hidden germs in Asia that you think that people can? You believe that it deserves to have more attention from travelers?
For me, it was always Myanmar, which is sadly not accessible at this time because of the political situation in the country. But the country was, for me, a truly hidden gem. Like, not even Bagan, which is super, unique, super famous. It's amazing site with over 1,000 temples on one plateau, and it's simply mind-blowing to drive around and see how many temples. Like the entire landscape is dotted with temples, so that's amazing place. But then if you go to villages and smaller places in Myanmar, this is like you sometimes feel like no one has been there before you. So that's pretty unique for the country. So how long
does it take to fly from Vietnam to Myanmar?
It's just like 2.5 hours. So from here, it's very easily used to be easily accessible through Bangkok, but sadly not these days.
Maybe one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me also, like I haven't had the pleasure to go to Myanmar yet. It was on my bucket list, but in the end, I didn't manage to go there soon enough.
I've never been there too.
But still, for me, the funniest thing in Asia is you don't have to look very far to have this off the beaten path experience. You can just go to most of the very touristic towns and cities and so on. You just don't go like everyone to the same places inside of the town and inside of the cities. Just go exploring the local alleys. Just go exploring right next to where the usual tourists go. So for example, you travel to Hoi An. Many people will complain that Hoi An is a super touristy place. But if you just go a little bit further around Hoi An, or even inside the old town, the ancient town of Hoi An, but you go to the small alleyways and so on, or the other part further away from Tubon River, you can see so many beautiful places and not many tourists there, and it has this, like kind of romantic feel, and you feel that it's very old and so on. So you can do the same, you can travel to the same destinations, but have completely different experiences there. So really, the off the beaten path experiences in Asia, not only in Vietnam, but also in Cambodia, also in Malaysia, it's just a thing. Like, sure, you will travel to the same places as everyone just to take a photo or just to see the site, because you cannot just go there and say, I haven't been near the Petronas Towers, for example, right? Everyone will ask you about the photo there, right? So you are at least compelled to take one photo there. But then you just go to different restaurants, to the different places, to more local streets, and your whole experience will be completely different. So it doesn't mean if you just go to a place that everyone calls tourist, like for example, Mekong Delta. Mekong Delta is super big. So you can go, just one town away, and it will be completely different than the, like usual procession of people between the shops and places trying to sell something to them. It just depends on your style and what you expect. So really, the local experience is just based on you exploring. You can just explore, not just go to buy stuff, and it will be fine.
Even me, I'm a local Vietnamese, but last time when I went to Con Thơ, and my first time trying the floating market, which is a very, very unique and interesting experience, like eating on the boats, and like you just going around with the boat, and then people trying to approach your boat and selling stuff.
So if you go to Con Thơ floating market, the Kai Rang, right? It's very nice, as you said, but you just can go and do the usual stuff, right? Eat and so on, and it's good. But you just can tell also the guy who's driving your boat, right, to let you go on one of the boats that sell, for example, pineapple or something, right? Then you just sit. And that's what really is different. If you know how to speak Vietnamese, you can actually talk to the people living there. And even if I'm going or Łukasz is going with the tourists, you can still communicate with the sellers, with the vendors there. So you can actually ask them about their life a little bit. And not just buy a pineapple and see how the lady cuts the pineapple, but also talk to her and see that her kid is here, and actually the kid will be here one more year, and then she will send the kid to her grandparents, right? So the grandparents will take care of the kid and send him to school and so on. You learn a lot by that, and you see the different perspective on everything. So it's not just like going and buying something, but you actually get this whole experience about learning about the locals' life. So it's quite different.
And that's one of you guys' advantages, that you can speak the local language. So which you will surprise a lot of local people.
Yeah, and some places we go still, like you get the feel, as Łukasz said, about Myanmar, but still in Vietnam, and there are also many places where not many Western people go. So if a Western person comes there and starts speaking Vietnamese, they're like, is your grandfather or grandmother Vietnamese? And so like, no, I'm Polish like 100%. And then they're like very surprised that, why did you learn Vietnamese? What for? It's like, business, and to enrich myself, of course. Yep.
So with recent global events and changing travel dynamics, what challenges has the travel industry in Asia faced?
So I think like right now, in many places, because like, like after the pandemic, many people moved to different industries. So people who used to work in travel and were trained actually to work in travel, they started their own companies or they went to work for restaurants and so on and so on. So in many hotels, there is shortage of qualified staff. So that's one problem. And also many travel agencies, they are looking for qualified staff, but they can't find anyone. So they have to, get some interns and then train them from scratch, and that takes time. So right now, in many places, it's not easy to do travel because you can't find people to work for you, really.
I mean, it's coming back and getting better. Like as Adrian said, companies are training new staff, but like if we look at what was it a year ago, it was a much bigger issue, like pretty serious for many areas, especially the less touristy ones. Obviously, there's still struggle for businesses in some areas that don't receive as many guests as before the pandemic, because of still like reduced number of flights. The conflict in Ukraine is a big thing as well for certain locations, and that were serving Ukrainian or Russian tourists. So this is all playing role. The Chinese market, which was always the most important for entire region, it just opened. What is it now? July 7 months ago, right? So it's just like slowly going back to where it was, but that there were lots of challenges for the businesses.
What I see the biggest shift in hotel industry is that now they're focusing more on the local people.
Mm-hmm.
Like they promote a lot of staycation packages from, like if you check out all the website of the hotels in Ho Chi Minh City, you can see that. Before they will focus more on the international tourists, but now they focus more on the domestic tourists.
I think you're also influenced by the current season, because we're in a domestic travel season. So what you have seen for the last few months was targeted campaigns for the domestic market. That's always the summertime is basically domestic travel across Asia, across the whole Southeast Asia. So there is a shift, but especially like a year ago, it was much more important. But now, as the visa policies are relaxing and nearly all the countries abandoned any COVID-related regulations or requirements, everyone is looking again at the international market too.
Yeah, and one shift, a big one that happened also, is like the places that used to serve mostly, like Chinese tourists, because there were many traveling in big groups. Now most of them shifted to Koreans. So everywhere you travel, be it Malaysia, Vietnam, or anywhere, you can see many Korean tourists traveling everywhere. So this is their season, as Łukasz said. This is the first thing. So other than just like domestic market, they have the inbound market, but most of them shifted to serving Koreans. So you go to Muina now, you cannot find like many Russian shops or Chinese menus in restaurants, but you can see Korean language everywhere. So they are kind of saving the whole inbound tourism market right now. But more and more tourists from Europe, from United States are also coming in, and thanks to the new visa policy, hopefully the August one will come in place really on 15th of August. So people will be able to get the multiple entry visa, because the most important part wasn't even the length of visa, because it wasn't even like 30 days only, but the most important part is you could only enter Vietnam single time. So you couldn't just connect Vietnam, then go to Laos, or just could go to Cambodia to see Angkor and come back to Vietnam to travel more. You would have to stay abroad and make a new e-visa, and it all took time, and you couldn't be sure you will get it on time, and so on and so on. So it was impossible for people to, just be flexible. So thanks to the new visa policy, I hope more and more guests will come in and see the beauty of Vietnam.
So, to sum up for today's discussions, what do you envision for the future of travel in Asia? And what trends do you think will shape the travel industry in Asia?
So I think more and more guests will stop traveling in large groups, like you can even have the chartered airplanes coming in from Europe, and people traveling in groups of 50 or 80 people with a joint tours for 2 weeks, or just going to a resort and staying there for 2 weeks, not seeing anything. But more people were, people shifted from the usual stuff to craft. So you have craft drinks, you can have craft food, everything craft. You can even have a craft burger, right? And now more people are switching towards craft tourism also. So that's what we actually do, the craft tourism. So we will adjust all the tours to your experience, to your expectations, but we will also tell you what not to do and what you should do to make your,
the best
yeah.
experience.
Exactly. So I think more and more people are already shifting from those big group tours, which may be a bit cheaper, but you don't really get the authentic experience. You just go to all the places that everyone goes, take photos there, try the same things in the same restaurants, and just go home and not really enrich yourself in any way, right? Just have the photos for Instagram. But if you go on those craft tours, then you have the real experience. You know people, you can see and you can feel that you have new friends, and you know a lot more about the world and about Asia in particular, right? So more and more people will switch towards this kind of craft travel, and we already see that people who came here, even they took just some short tours from us during their big trips organized by the more industrial, more commercial companies. Now they're coming back to revisit and really explore everything more deeply. So I think that will be the trend.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the long established tourism hotspots they will still gonna receive a certain number of visitors, but people are basically gonna spread out a bit more, looking for something less busy, not overpopulated, not too busy with tourists.
Small
and
travel.
yeah, they will wind down like the pace of it and just explore more places, and we're there to help with that.
Okay. So thank you very much for today's sharing, and we hope that you enjoyed the session today.